Welcome to the Yoked Podcast, where we talk about all things entrepreneurship, real estate, and partnerships. I'm your host, Travis Hall, alongside my co-host and wife, Ingrid. Together, we've been in real estate for nearly 2 decades, always as an equally yoked husband and wife team.
Join us each week as we bring you a new episode. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, follow along, and welcome to this week's episode of
The Yoked Podcast. What's up and welcome to the Yoked Podcast. I'm Travis. This is my wife, Ingrid. We are here today, a special episode. This is our live launch party. You guys can be excited in this part. Gwen, there we are. We have a live audience, which is exciting. And yeah, we're excited to get in.
Yeah. So we thought we would do a live Q&A for this one. We are planning to post it early in our series. So an opportunity for the audience to get to know us, you listeners to get to know us a little bit. So no questions are off limits unless we really don't want to answer them, and then we won't. But it's hopefully an opportunity just to share a little bit of ourselves with you guys. Questions from the people that know us best.
Absolutely.
So Christina is in the back. She's amazing, and she's going to kick us off.
Hello, audience. I'm Christina. I'm going to be kicking things off for us this evening with the first burning question that I am sure we all would like to know. I know that when I was included in this journey with you guys, you said that this has been a project that you've been excited about for so long, but just have never officially taken the jump to do it. So I guess I have a twofold question. One, what is Yoked? And two, why now? What was the final push for you guys to start doing this?
Great question.
Well, obviously, it's a workout podcast. So getting swole in the gym.
Turns out you can be yoked. I didn't even know that was a thing until I was telling somebody the name of the podcast. So we're twisting that part to be you can be financially yoked.
Yep.
Which is just like big.
Big bank account.
Big.
All right. Go your part of the story.
Yeah, honestly, Yoked came from couples counseling. So we were in couples counseling, and one of the questions that our counselor posed to us was, are you guys equally yoked? So the vision of 2 oxen being able to carry way more together than they ever could independently or separately. And
well, and specifically because we are intertwining a lot of different areas of our life. Obviously, we're married, we're parents, we have like 10 different businesses, and we do it all together. And so it's a unique scenario.
Yeah.
There's no time away. And so it's, are we yoked together in all of those areas?
Yes.
And so that's where it came from, was originally with that. And then that was years ago. And you've been, wanting to do a podcast for several years, always wanting me to do it, but you wanted the idea.
Yes.
And then the community we joined this past year, they were all about telling your story and putting yourself out there. And so it was a pretty heavy conviction. And so here we are.
Yeah. And it's been a journey of pushing back. It's also a biblical reference to be yoked. Jesus tells us in the Bible to be yoked to him, that he can carry our load. And I think part of that was a conviction over the last year of like, I've asked you to do this and you haven't done it. And so why now? Because we couldn't wait any longer. So, yeah.
And YouTube, because you just should do YouTube, even though it's the hard part.
Yes. Video podcast.
Yeah. Good question.
Awesome. Well, whoever would like, we're going to open up the floor. Whoever would like to ask the next question, just raise your hand and I'll come on over to you with my card mic. All right, I'm going to go
I knew
to
Aaron
you
would have a
first.
good question. Just knew it.
Right. My name is Erin Hall, and I would consider them first friends. And then my husband and Travis are cousins. But ultimately, we're friends. And we've done some business too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, you guys. Best thing about doing basically everything together, being yoked in all areas. I don't want to say worst thing. What do you call it?
Opportunities.
Opportunity.
What is your biggest challenge with being yoked 100% of the time?
That was a good one. I'll start with the challenge.
Of course.
because that one's easy. One of the biggest challenges we face is that it's very hard to have an off button for us when it comes to business. When you've worked together as long as you've known each other, I don't go home at the end of the day and ask Travis what he did today because I worked side by side with him all day long and I know exactly what he did. So I think pivoting and trying to have something that continues to grow us and bring us together is probably the biggest challenge right now, just because we've been in lockstep for so long.
I mean, I would echo on that. I feel like date night is a good example of that, where it's like you have to turn it off. Where like you can just continue the conversation and we're at a nice dinner, and so it's like it feels like a date, but it's still just work talk with nice food. But then we get to write it as a business expense. So that part is good.
So that's the best part about it. No.
But I would say like the best part, I mean, for me in my world, like I meet a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of men in my same space, and very few of them have an Ingrid. And so it's super cool that I get to have a sounding board all the time. And someone for me that, I mean, she is you guys know, she's the CEO. She's the logistics mind. I'm the dreamer and just the doer and the ready, fire, aim. And she figures out the way to make it all happen. So it works. It works very well.
And it's fun. Honestly, like it's been so fun.
I hope you have fun.
Yeah, you do. I'd just be so serious without Travis. Good question.
My name is Bridget, and I know Ingrid and Travis through Karin, so family friends, and I feel like I'm part of the family now. That was a great question, and now I was trying to think of another one. What made you decide that you really wanted to do a podcast, and what's been the biggest challenge in getting it launched?
So the reason for a podcast was the format in which to get it out to the world. Video podcast because YouTube is the second highest searched
behind Google.
Mm-hmm. So we knew that would be a great way to do it. And short format because I hardly listen to hour-long podcasts, so I knew probably the majority of our audience wouldn't. But a podcast mainly just because the format is the most easily accessible for a lot of people.
Well, initially for me at least, it was what would I want to tell myself from 10 years ago? If I'm starting out in whatever realm of real estate or entrepreneurship, like what would I want to know? Because I was doing that. I was looking up for information and, really just consuming everything and anything. And so that's like kind of been part of the lens as far as why. And to Ingrid's point, like it is, and we have a lot of meetings. We get people that ask us all the time, like, hey, can we go get coffee or go, how do you do a flip? How do you flip a house? And it's a loaded question. And so this is an easy way to answer a lot of those questions for a lot of different people. Not to say that we won't keep having coffee, it's because I love coffee, but it is an easier way to cast the net and help more people on a scaled platform.
Yeah.
And the technology has been the hardest part for sure.
Yeah.
As far as syncing up the microphone with the camera. If the camera wasn't here, it's way easier.
That's been hard.
Awesome. Who wants to go next? All right. I'll do one after the other.
The Turners.
Turner. They had notes. They brought notes.
Okay, guys. I'm Seth. This is my wife, Becca. I know Trav and Ingrid. They're just great friends. We look up to them. They're super important to us.
We are in partnership with you.
We're in a partnership with them, yes. So that's how we are acquainted and know each other. My question for you guys is, how do you see the podcast impacting listeners in business, in the real estate world, relationally, or how do you hope it impacts them? If they could take one thing away from each episode, like what do you hope that could be?
I think
That's a good question.
For me, and Travis touched on it, like the real estate investing world is predominantly men. And so for me, there were so many questions early on that I didn't feel like I had anybody to ask them that would answer them in a way that was like accessible. And so one of my secret hopes for the podcast is that women investors early on are able to access information that they might feel like they don't have anywhere else to go. So we recorded an episode about zero vacancy in rentals, like how to have zero vacancy. That's something we're really proud of. And I give tips and tricks and all kinds of things. And I would have died for that information early on. Instead, it was like 5 years of trial and error.
And I think for me, like, just being real and like, I mean, there's a lot of good podcasts and information out there and people telling the wins and the losses. But I think just being real and authentic, and like one of ours that we recorded, we talked all about, our losses this past year in depth. And it's like, that totally sucked. And that's not why anybody does this, but it was real. And so it's like, let's talk about it. And like how we lost $100,000. Yay. And like, what we learned from it.
Yeah.
It's like, if you lose things like that, you have a loss, like you should, really view it as a master's class. So I think just being real and, both educational on the pro and on the con of all things entrepreneurship and business.
Hi, my name's
Becca.
Becca, Seth's wife, friends, mentors, people we look up to in life.
And partner.
What'd you say?
I said and partner.
And partners. My question actually comes off of something you said about wishing that you had someone when you were young giving you thoughts and advice. And my question is, if you could go back to yourself 15, 20 years ago when you were starting doing business together, life together, etc., what are one or two things that you would say to yourself from what you've learned?
Question.
You go first. I have to think.
I love this question.
I only get one or two.
I mean, whenever we first got married, not even married, when we first met, we were going to be millionaires in like 8 months. And I was convicted of that. It didn't happen. But I think, just do it. I'm a big fan of the ready, fire, aim. Even if you fail, but especially early on, if you're young, like who cares? You don't have anything to lose. And so I would tell myself, just do it. Like just trust yourself and try, even if you don't know the answers. I mean, a lot of you have heard the story, but when Ingrid and I first year of marriage, we were living in Idaho, and the book said, build your team, the investment book. And so that's what we started doing. And we interviewed an attorney, we interviewed a CPA. They all thought we were freaking crazy. Because we were 22 and like, we didn't have anything. And it was like, well, here's our spiral bound that we went to FedEx and had it done. And we went to the bank and we offered them the opportunity to give us a mortgage. That's not how it works, but that's what we did. And I'm just proud that we did that. And it's like, we were not going to fail. And so I would just say, do it. Just try. It's like,
You are so positive. Like you're just innately positive. It's
totally
impressive.
Enneagram 7, baby.
Still impressed. I would say you've got to get people in your corner that believe in you, because if you think this is hard with a room full of people who have been behind us for 16 years, like imagine it when people weren't. And honestly, it's just an industry that will punish you if you don't believe in yourself. You're in an entrepreneurial world. Like you don't have to have a high school degree to do this. It's incredible. And the pathways like it provides are awesome. But if I could go back, I would say build people around you who truly believe in you and want to see you succeed. Because that will make you go further faster than anything else.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I quit college to go do this.
Oh, that's
and like
true.
full sold out. We're doing it.
People were not happy you did that.
Some of them are in this room.
Hi.
Cousin.
Hello, cousins. I am Mark Hall. I am Travis Hall's cousin. My question
Distinguished Banker of the Year.
Also Distinguished Banker of the
me.
Year.
True.
You did win that.
Who are your heroes and why?
Oh,
That's loaded.
I know.
That's a hard. Heroes in what lane? Dealer's choice. I think we should do more of this lane. It's a hard one. I'll go with one of my mentors because it's just that I love him. He's a great guy, and you won't pick him. So, Dave Furlong is one of my absolute heroes. He's the one that first really convinced me. Farmville, Virginia. Whenever you were finishing school,
Yeah, because it's booming metropolis. You have to tell everyone where it is.
5,000 people, and maybe 10 with the school there.
Probably.
But he owned a lawn care company, and I put on my suit and tie, interviewed with him literally for cutting grass. And I got the job. And we drove an hour each way to go cut grass in the Richmond area. It's like driving from, I don't know, like Commerce City to Highlands Ranch, because Highlands Ranch has better homes and they pay for cutting grass. And so we would do that. And every day we would listen to audiobooks. And I'm like, at first, like, what is this guy doing? He's like 10 years older than me. But he has a lot. I mean, he's got a beautiful truck, which I liked. Great trailer, all the equipment. But we listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad and The Secret to the Millionaire Mind and all these audiobooks. And at first, I just didn't understand it. I'm like, why aren't we listening to music? We have an hour drive. And it clicked. And I always wanted to, buy some real estate, a house. Growing up in Oklahoma, $100,000 house, that's a great place. So my ceiling was pretty high as far as my limiting belief. I should say my ceiling was low on my limiting belief. And so he really just exposed that a lot. And so he definitely noticed that I was asking him questions. Again, I'm 21 and I'm asking him questions and I'm really intrigued about this book. And he bought me the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. We would stop by Barnes and Noble and picked it up, and he's like, read this. And I did. And within 5 months, I was like, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing for my life. And so he really planted the seed, or helped plant the seed. Because the seed was there. He watered the seed aggressively.
That's true.
So I'd say him.
Oh, that is a good one. What was that board game we played?
Cash Flow
Quadrant. Got invited over to play Cash Flow Quadrant, and I remember walking in, and it was very clear I was going to be the only woman playing Cash Flow Quadrant.
He's a good example of his wife, a great lady, had zero interest at all in what he did. And he had a massive portfolio, car wash. He had all these duplexes. He had a house here and a house there. And he was actively growing, and she liked the cash flow.
Yeah.
Truly,
I like cash flow.
They're divorced now. I can say that. She did not have any interest in what he was doing.
Yeah. I cannot name you a person because I think I'm still looking for somebody that is doing it really well. But I have been on the hunt probably for the last few years to find somebody who is living this integrated life. Like, this is extremely challenging industry to have a family in. Ask our kids, they're in the back. They sometimes are the ones that pay the price for Saturday showings and Wednesday night, missing soccer practices to write offers and do things. But I know it exists. I'm just trying to find exactly who's doing it well. And that has literally been my kind of North Star over these last few years, is who's living that integrated life where they can truly be present with family. And not do this you have to choose, or you can't do both. I've seen it done, and it's just finding somebody that's doing it well.
You're just blazing your own trail.
Yeah. If you know of anyone, throw me a recommendation on podcast. I'll listen to it.
My name's Abby, and I've been friends with Ingrid and Travis now for 4 years, I think. And the question I have for you is, when you're partnered in all aspects of your life, it's not always smooth sailing. And what would you say about what you've learned about productive disagreement or productive conflict? What lessons have you learned about how to move through something effectively?
Bringing the heat. I will say we are in, what do they call it? We've graduated from couples counseling right now, or what did she call it?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that.
Yeah, graduated. Maybe we're in remission until we go back for a tune-up.
We're on
Um,
summer break.
we're on summer break. One of the biggest challenges is probably for me, it's overexhaustion of decision fatigue. It is, I mean, we're already in that kind of industry, but then it's kind of all day, every day, going back and forth. This is not an independent position. It's not an independent industry. You are collaborating all day, every day, and that can be absolutely exhausting to get home. And we're both so tired. And the exhaustion continues of decision making and what we're going to have for dinner and who's going to do this.
Dinner. That's always the biggest one.
Oh my gosh, dinner, you guys, meal planning. Certainly that's probably mine right now is one of the biggest challenges. Decision fatigue.
I mean, again, we've been doing this for a while. And so I think we've done a good job of figuring out our lanes. I'd say whenever I stepped out of working in the church, that was the biggest challenge because I had this romantic idea of what this is going to be, and it just wasn't. And it's, we were going to go
We're going to go like drive around all day, go to lunch, and then
I'm like, that'd be great. This would be so fun.
No,
and she's much more of like, this needs to be efficient. And so why are we both doing this? And I'm like, well, because I want to hang out.
there'll be no hanging out.
And so we've learned I've learned, I should say, my lane. And so I think with some things, like, I know that's Ingrid's lane. And so like a good example of like fix and flip. If we're doing an investment, like I help underwrite and do the numbers. And then when it comes to design or anything about the way it looks, I hand it off because I just don't care.
Until I have decision fatigue.
Until she's like, I need you to pick one.
Know.
But I think we have, it's helped with challenges as far as working together, like day in, day out. Marriage that's different, that's a different, ball game. But in this conversation, as far as like, working, entrepreneuring, and, like side by side, I feel like we've figured out, we don't have a lot of this because we're running together because we're yoked. That is the point though. I mean, if you're not yoked, it doesn't work very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Real quick, how many more questions would you
Let's
like?
get like 2 more.
2 more? Perfect. All right.
Or 3 if they're really good.
3 more. See? My lane.
I'm Matt. I'm Ingrid's hero. She doesn't know it yet.
It's true.
That's my role here.
Some of our oldest friends in the room.
That's right. We've had a front row seat to this, which has been a pleasure. But ever since we've known you, you guys have been pedal to the metal, go, 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 reach for your goals. At some point, we'd love to hear more about how you set those goals. But my question is, how will you know when you're yoked enough? How will you know when that portfolio is big enough to when you can step back a little?
That is so good. So I ironically am listening to a book right now called The Psychology of Money. And there is a chapter in that book called Enough. It is so good. I highly recommend the book. We listen to it every few years. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, so one of the metrics that the author gives on Enough is it's a saying around freedom of time. And it's basically that wealth is the opportunity to dictate how you spend your time. It's not a dollar figure. And that is certainly, I think, what we're working towards. At some point, you have to put a dollar figure to it. And so we've talked about that. But we've also talked about the fact that, like, we would be so bored. We'd be so bored if you, like, hit that passive income level. What would you do all day?
Right.
So for me, it's, I don't know, still trying to figure that out, but it's freedom of time.
And yeah, I'll shout out Matt because one of our first partnerships, H&M Real Estate.
You should see that guy on a lawnmower.
Yeah, you should. Changing door locks. Man, I will say, for me, like, I'm a big goal setter, but I'm also like I move the goalpost.
Yes.
As soon as I hit it, I move it, and I'm trying to stop doing that, and at least celebrate the goalpost and then reassess. So I will say, I don't think it's always good just to be sprinting. You do need to celebrate and enjoy where you're at. And we've done better at that in the last couple of summers. But one thing, Matt, that you introduced me to is the story of the Mexican fisherman.
Mm.
And honestly, we talk about that a lot. I bet we talk about that story
Once a month.
once
at
a
least.
month. As far as it's more of like a litmus test. It's like, if you don't know the story, go check it out. It's a great story. It's
Look it
super
up.
simple. It just makes you think about what you're doing and why, and are you already there? Have you achieved what you're setting out to do and you just don't realize it? And so, I mean, honestly, that story, it helps us think about where we're at a lot.
Yeah.
I'm Justine. I'm Travis's younger sister. My question is for Travis. I kind of know your reason for getting into real estate, and I know your story. But Ingrid, I don't think I know yours. Was it just Travis's just intense passion for real estate? Did it rub off on you, or did you come into this with your own desires to do real estate as well? So what's your story
Great
besides
question.
just meeting Travis?
That is a good question. I mean, it is largely based in him, but this is, I don't know. Well, some people will know this story. So I was looking to go to school on a soccer scholarship, and I was going to go to their architecture program. I was super interested in architecture when I was young. Our brother-in-law is an architect now. It's such a cool form of design. I just truly loved it. They had a program, and literally 3 months, I think, before I was leaving for school, they ended the program. And I had to decide if I was still going to go because I was on a soccer scholarship. I decided to still go, and I got a fine arts degree, which is super useful, but studied graphic design instead. And so I did love graphic design. I got a job. I call it like a hobby because I didn't get paid a lot. So I got an internship at a weekly paper in Idaho when we moved there right after marriage to ski bum for a bit, and hated it. Absolutely hated the deadline driven nature of a weekly paper, but loved the design side. And so I think I was still always looking for that. And so some of our very first real estate investments were flips, and it was getting to pick out finishes and paint colors and tile, which just Travis dreads with every fiber of him. And I love, and so it's that. But I mean, certainly Travis is the one that initiated a lot of it. One of the greatest gifts of this industry is flexibility. And I have just I've never been a contain me person. I like to have freedom. And so it's lent itself to that nicely.
Really? Very nice.
Bring us home, Joe.
Got you.
No pressure.
All right,
Another
Joe,
graphic designer.
secondhand friend. 'Cause my wife knows them and they work together. 2-part quick question. I want to know who you got behind the door as a special guest.
I know.
And then what mistake has taught you your biggest lesson?
Ooh. The door houses a bunch of storage. I've been in there.
Yeah. Nothing exciting.
Nothing like you're thinking. Ooh.
Take it away.
Well, I think you should.
Biggest mistake.
Mistake.
I think for me, the biggest mistake I've made and I've learned multiple times now is I am a fairness guy. I just and it's great. I think it's a good quality, but it's bit me sometimes. Meaning let's just do it. You and me, period. And it's just not everyone has that same mentality. And it just is learning to talk through that has been a thing that I am working on all the time. So because it's not all rainbows and roses and just so easy and let's just do it. And a lot of you guys know that's just me, and it's not it's not the real world. And so for me, I'm constantly learning that I need to grow up as a professional and not just back a napkin. Let's just do it, shake hands, and go have fun.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And I resist it, but I know I need to do it.
With every fiber. One of my biggest challenges in all of like being a professional is certainly some might call it steamrolling, but I refer to it as passing by people just for the sake of efficiency or to get something done, not gathering them along the way. So I was told in a fellowship program at Denver Institute for Faith and Work, I was acting as a freight train and I needed to be a passenger train. So I needed to stop along the way and get people's buy-ins for ideas, explain to them where I was headed, instead of being 5 steps ahead and just trying to get to the 5 steps ahead as fast as I could. That there's a lot of value in bringing people in and helping them see my way or collaborate and kind of picking up a passenger along the way. And it's really just like a learned slowing. I might not be able to make my mind go 100% slow, but I can certainly act in a way professionally to help that. So that's
good question.
That was good. These were all good. This is fun.
Wonderful final question that we ask every time.
Yes.
We have the same answer, but I'll ask you. So every episode, we'd like to ask this, like, regarding the episode, what are you yoked to today?
Right now, I am super yoked to my community. Everybody in the room. Yeah, truly. You're the reason that we are here and that we've made it this far and that we're doing a podcast. So
you guys are our biggest champions. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Yeah.
Thank you. That is a wrap of our live launch recording of the Yoked Podcast. And holy cow, it was an absolute blast. Ingrid, for all of those listening that want to connect with you, how do they find you?
I can be found on Instagram at the Ingrid Hall.
And I am at all of the socials at the Travis Hall. And as always, if you liked what you listened to, please be sure to click the like and subscribe button to follow along each week as we drop a new episode.